Today we are looking at a bizarre, highly specific local story that perfectly illustrates a very modern global problem. We're going to dive into how a massive chalk giant is getting an unexpected makeover and how shifting weather patterns are literally rewriting a centuries-old community tradition.
Now, there's a pretty hilarious human element behind this massive monument. One local who grew up driving past this giant as a kid actually remembers her dad actively shielding her eyes, shouting, "Oh, he's right there, don't look at it." Why? Well, because this giant's profile is, let's just say, very bold and highly graphic. It's a wonderful little childhood anecdote that just goes to show how much personality this local landmark has and why it's so fun for locals to return as adults and finally get to look at it without having to cover their eyes.
Part 1. Meet the Bold Giant, a monumental community fixture.
We're talking about a sheer, staggering scale here. The Cerne Abbas Giant is 55 meters. That's a whopping 180 feet tall. Maintaining something of this enormous size is a monumental task all on its own. And what makes it so visually striking is the contrast, right? You have these brilliant, thick white lines of chalk popping directly against the bright green, grassy background of the hill. It's a graphic masterpiece that absolutely dominates the landscape.
Part 2. Why is he fading? The environmental shift.
So why exactly is he fading? Well, it really boils down to two shifting weather conditions. First, heavier winter rains. The sheer volume of water is actively washing the chalk away, way faster than it used to. Second, warmer, wetter winters. This specific combination basically acts like a greenhouse, creating the absolute perfect environment for plant and algae growth to accelerate right over the chalk. Because of this, the giant's bold, distinctive features are softening, and he's starting to look dull far sooner than anyone ever expected.
And to put that into perspective, this brilliantly illustrates the real-world impact of these changing weather patterns. Historically, the National Trust only had to give this guy a fresh coat of chalk once every 10 years. The last time they did the whole shebang was in 2019. But because the chalk is dulling and washing away so rapidly now, they've had to adapt. The new schedule? They've had to bump it up significantly to about once every 7 years. That is a major shift.
Part 3. A mammoth chalking effort. Fixing the fading features.
You can imagine the logistical nightmare this creates. The workforce required is simply staggering. 300 community volunteers. That is a massive team. And they aren't just out there for a quick afternoon gig. We're talking 15 days of long, hard graft. And to make matters even more intense, this specific restoration coincided with exceptionally hot weather, making an already really tough job incredibly difficult.
Just picture the sheer physicality of this process. Step 1, they literally have to manually dig out the old degraded material. Step 2, hefting 17 tons of fresh chalk up a steep hill. 17 tons. And Step 3, packing all that fresh chalk into the channels entirely by hand. Doing all of this backbreaking manual labor in sweltering heat on what turned out to be one of the hottest days of the year makes this a truly grueling endeavor.
But you know what's incredible? Despite the exhausting work and the extreme heat, people still love it. One volunteer perfectly summed it up, saying, "It's just amazing that somebody decided to put this in the hill." Even while doing all that intense labor, the volunteers still find it a really fun, awe-inspiring experience to be out there restoring something so historically unique. The dedication this community has to their monument is just absolute.
Part 4. The Climate Change Connection. The Macro View.
Let's zoom out a bit. The Met Office has clearly stated that the UK already has a notably different climate from just a few decades ago. It's not a prediction, it's a tangible, measured shift. And this completely explains the dual extremes we just talked about, right? The heavier winter rains eroding the chalk in the colder months, and then that scorching, exceptional summer heat making the restoration work so brutal for the volunteers.
And the Met Office makes it super clear that these weather trends are set to persist. We're locking into a future of warmer, wetter winters and hotter, drier summers. This is the exact meteorological formula that degrades the giant faster and massively complicates its repair. To really put a hard number on this macro trend, a newly published report reveals a 90% likelihood, a staggering 9 in 10 chance, that the world will hit a brand new record temperature within the next 5 years. Just let that sink in for a moment. A 9 in 10 chance of world record-breaking heat in just half a decade.
So, bringing it all back home, what does this mean for our 180-foot chalk man? Well, because of these undeniable meteorological shifts, the Cerne Abbas Giant can definitely expect to get more frequent attention in the future. The locals are going to have to grab their shovels, haul those 17 tons of chalk up that steep hill, and pack it in by hand a whole lot more often just to keep their giant bold and visible.
Which leaves us with this final, genuinely provocative question to ponder. As the world warms, what other historic monuments are going to require our more frequent attention? I mean, if shifting weather patterns are literally washing away a massive 180-foot chalk giant in England, what other pieces of our shared global history are quietly demanding our urgent attention? It's a fascinating and pressing reality that we all really need to think about.